So good morning, everybody. I can see that you're all just about joining us at the moment, and you're very welcome. Please pop something into the chat to let us know that you can hear us and that you can see the slides and so on and so forth. Delighted to have you with us, and welcome from a very sunny Kilkenny here this morning. So weather is looking really nice, much better than it was yesterday, and things are looking up in that regard. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us, and you're very welcome. Also, of course, thanks very much to Marina, who's there in terms of supporting us from a technical point of view. So if you have any difficulty logging on or hearing anything like that, please drop us a line and we'll see what we can do at our end to see if there's anything that's helpful to you. But thank you so much for joining us. I was just mentioning to the panel there this morning that this morning has been particularly traumatic for myself and my wife. We've had a really tough morning so far, and I'm sure some of you might be able to sympathize. My daughter is just finishing up primary school. I imagine there's many of you in that particular bracket this morning. So lots of tears and hugs and so on and so forth from us, and of course it doesn't bother her whatsoever. So I think that's kind of part of the transition that we're going through at the moment. So delighted to see you join us. Please pop something in the chat just to let us know that you can hear us and so on and so forth. Really excited this morning to get into a really interesting panel discussion and a number of presentations around the sort of key strategic pieces around health. And you will see again, probably this morning or over the course of the day, some of the latest research in Ireland to show that health and well-being has taken, not surprisingly, a huge jump in terms of importance to organizations and to individuals, and that it's pretty much doubled in the space of the past year and a half. So what we're hearing from HR professionals and professionals like yourselves is that this has really moved up the agenda. So I think it's really timely to get into this idea of what a strategic approach to health might be and how that might look in the particular case study organizations that we're looking at, and to get some expert advice also from Brian from Workplace Wellbeing Ireland. So looking forward to sort of getting into that discussion. Thank you so much, Brian. Thanks, Aileen and John, for joining us this morning. Delighted to have you with us. So one of the things I wanted to touch on in terms of our discussion, just as the sun comes through there this morning, is, I suppose, one of the things we have researched from, let's say, from a great place to work point of view and from a healthy place to work point of view, how it is organizations approach health and how that has happened over the past number of years. And one of the things that we ran into is, while some of the senior teams that you might be dealing with, many of them are in favor of this idea of an approach to health and well-being, and that being strategic. Some will ask the question, and quite rightly ask the question, what is the return on investment from an organizational point of view? And in order to take a strategic approach to anything, I think we've got to be clear about what that return on investment is. And certainly from our research, we wanted to look into it in such a way as to say, is there a way of doing this? Is there a way of approaching health and well-being in the workplace in order to be sure that it both delivers for the individual but also delivers for the organization? And one of the things that we found in terms of the research is that many times organizations are investing in a wide range of things which are beneficial to health and beneficial to people's well-being, but they're not capturing it, and they're not making that clear, and they're not measuring it. So I suppose this whole series of things which have an impact on people's longevity, people's well-being, and people's experience of the workplace and experience of life in general. For example, learning and development. Those kinds of things are really important in terms of people's resilience. So, so that was one of the things that we found, and certainly in terms of a strategic approach, we wanted to look at that. So one of the things, I suppose, in relation to a number of things around that, we looked at when we went out to organizations and asked them, what are the kinds of questions what are the kinds of problems that you're facing on the ground in terms of understanding this and getting the best value from it? And we wanted to look at the impact of the individual and the impact of the organization across those opportunities. So the kind of opportunities, and I'm guessing that these are some of the opportunities, some of the questions that might be facing you at any point in terms of you looking at this is, how do we avoid things like burnout and extreme stress and so on and so forth? So what's the optimal place here where people can perform at their best, but not be over the top? Can we demonstrate a return on investment in terms of health and well-being? And certainly the research around demonstrating return on investment is very mixed. So certainly there's a lot of investment going waste here and not being captured fully, and that's something we want to get into. What's the employee value proposition? How do we sell that, and how do we position that with our employees? And do we have a healthy culture? Have we the right people on the bus, and are we engaged? And each and every one of these, as I'm going to show you, has a personal belief, an individual health benefit for the individual, and an organizational outcome. And just to very quickly run through some of those examples in terms of you engaging with your senior team around investing in this area. The personal belief that somebody needs to have in order to avoid sort of burnout and stress and so on and so forth is that their workplace actually values their health. And the health benefit is that I as an individual have an opportunity to practice self-care. And the organizational outcome is, of course, that high performance is sustainable over time and that you're not suffering the cost of burnout and so on and so forth. In terms of return on investment, we see things like learning and development being really important in terms of people's mental resilience, but oftentimes it's not seen as a well-being intervention. And there is a significant health benefit for each individual to the extent to which they're growing and developing and adapting to change. So in a very fast-moving environment, my belief that I'm resilient and that I'm being supported by my organization to change has a big benefit to my health. And the organizational outcome is, of course, that you end up with an innovative and agile organization to the extent to which it's adapting. Do we have a healthy culture? Well, the personal belief that somebody needs to have and that we test for under those conditions is that I belong and I want to be here. And of course, the health benefit is that it's psychologically safe to be here. So I can fully express myself and bring all of my emotional self to work. And of course, the organizational outcome in this particular case is that people who demonstrate passion and loyalty. So where it's safe for me to do so and express myself fully, I can bring my whole self to work. So these are the kinds of things on the right-hand side that organizations are looking for. And these are the kind of things that you can line up in terms of a strategic approach to health in order to deliver those benefits and to I suppose, to sell this idea to the senior team. Have we the right people on the bus is another piece that we come across. And the personal belief here is I'm in the right organization. We want to have the people who believe that they're in the right organization for themselves, that they believe that their work has meaning and purpose. And again, that brings an organizational outcome of alignment and unity. So my name is Jim Flynn. I'm from one of the partners in Healthy Place to Work. I'm delighted to have you here. I just want to sort of, I suppose, set the scene a little bit before I introduce Brian there shortly to get into this discussion to a greater degree. And these are the kinds of questions, the kinds of things we'll be paying attention to over the next 3/4 of an hour or so, and looking forward to getting your questions. We will take question and answer sessions in, so we're allowing plenty of time to do that. Please don't expect us to cover everything in here. So our intention is to introduce you to a few ideas. Some of these ideas hopefully will spark some questions. You've been positioned to look at these slides afterwards. We will be sharing them, of course. And if there's any other question or clarification, please feel free to follow up with any one of the four of us as you see fit. We look forward to getting into it, and we'll take it from there. So, Brian, thank you very much for joining us. Delighted that you could be here. I understand that you used to work for IBM and Vodafone, and that you're a reformed project manager.
I'm a recovering management
Recovering.
consultant, Jim. Yeah, I'm in recovery, and it's going pretty well so far.
I'm sorry about that, Brian. I'm glad that you it. Yeah. The healing is happening, I think, is it?
The healing is very much happening. Yeah, it is indeed. Yeah, I worked in the corporate world for over 10 years, and it was a fantastic experience. I learned so much, and it was during that time that I was certainly trying to live a healthy lifestyle, where I really started exploring this whole topic of healthy workplaces and healthy cultures. I felt at times it was extremely challenging for me, even though I was passionate about this area, to maintain a healthy lifestyle, given deadlines, client demands, just maybe the general working environment. So that's when I really started kind of investigating this, trying to do stuff in this area. I mean, everything from I used to manage the soccer team in Vodafone for a number of years. That's maybe where I dipped my toe in the water, kind of the physical activity side of things, and started kind of 5-a-side running groups, lunch and learns on site, and then educating myself in the evening time through a number of kind of courses and accreditations as well.
Okay. And Brian, in terms of Workplace Wellbeing Ireland, what kinds of trends and what critical enablers do you see that are really important at the moment?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's a good question, and you've touched on a few points already, Jim, which is great. And I suppose that the main one is, and it's a really positive one, that more and more organizations now are putting well-being higher on the agenda list, on the priority list, which is a real positive thing to see. So this is really positive. I describe that almost as, imagine it's a funnel. Imagine the top of the funnel is the awareness piece. So there's lots and lots of organizations becoming aware of well-being. This is something we should be doing. What are the competition doing? What are our people looking for? Really positive first step. What I've noticed is a lot of organizations, it's quite new to them. So this is almost, you could describe this maybe as the yoga and the fruit basket phase, where they're just really exploring, dipping their toe in the water, not really sure if they're making progress, how to measure this. It's early stage, right? But it's a good sign. So we're getting more and more people into the top of the funnel. What I try and do with Workplace Wellbeing Ireland, and it's another trend that I'm seeing, is I'm trying to push more and more companies down that funnel to make their well-being, what they're doing, a lot more strategic, a lot more long-term, and a lot more sustainable. So I want them to get away from the top of the funnel, where it's this, what I describe as random acts of wellness, and move towards more sustainable long-term programs. And that is happening. It's slow progress, but through Workplace Wellbeing Ireland, and we're educating people. They're sharing their stories with us, and we are actually getting there. Yeah. I'll touch on the and that's one point. So, which is a really important point to make. If you want to enable that, then of course that leads to the next question: how do you actually go about doing that? I suppose there's a couple of enablers we could look at. I would say number one, you need some kind of a framework, and I will point out first of all, the Healthy Place to Work have an excellent framework as well. So the four pillars. So something like that, something of an overarching framework that can support your organization. I myself have an 8-step framework that I use, that I step companies through. And I'd love to claim credit for it, but a lot of it comes from the Wellness Council of America, who I'm a member of, my colleagues at Trinity as well, Dr. Sarah Jane Cullinan, Dr. Jennifer Hines, their research, plus all the feedback from the Workplace Wellbeing Ireland community. So we don't have time to go through the 8 steps. What I'll quickly point out though is, here is where most well-intentioned Irish organizations jump in. Step number 5. And so it's an endless cycle of choosing intervention after intervention after intervention. So the random acts of wellness, that cycle where they're not making any progress really, they might be short-term gains, but there's no real long-term commitment. Where I'm trying to get companies to, if you move on to the next slide, it's the real groundwork that you can do before you even get to choosing the interventions. And these are the real enablers here. So I think it almost goes without saying, committed leadership to what you're doing, get them to buy into what you're doing, bring them on the journey with you. So it's more than just writing a check every now and then. It's visible advocacy, it's participation, it's communicating in everything they do that they believe well-being is the real priority here. And I would say another huge enabler is, can you create a shared ownership for well-being across the organization? So what I'm saying with that is, sometimes if we as an organization, if we're trying to promote well-being, either we're one person or we're one team in a silo, maybe it's HR, it can often be seen as this is just another HR initiative or just another company initiative to, I don't know, squeeze an extra bit of productivity out of us. Whereas if you can get buy-in, early stage buy-in from grassroots, from depending on how your organization is structured, maybe it's location based, maybe it's department based, maybe you've got quite a few different role types that you need to have a voice on maybe a wellbeing champion team. Can you get their buy-in on this? Can you get their input into the entire process so that they feel an ownership of what's going on? Can you get your wellbeing champion team to help define a vision of what wellbeing at your organization looks like? And can you get them to actually even define the role of what a wellbeing champion looks like at your organization? So steps like that, the committed leadership, the shared ownership for wellbeing. And then of course, step number 3 here would be that, gathering the needs and wants, understanding, first of all, the research. Secondly, what are our own internal needs and wants? What are people asking for? And then it's documenting that at a high level to get what's our high level focus area now for this year or for the next 3 years. So that's where it becomes strategic. And all of a sudden, you're a long, long way from your kind of random acts of wellness, which is step number 5. And step number 5 now becomes, okay, well, there's a whole lot more to what we're doing here. This is actually everything we're choosing in step number 5 is based on the previous 4 steps. So it's really well-informed interventions that we're choosing that support our high-level goals. And then the other steps are pretty much supportive of everything that we're trying to do.
And I suppose, Brian, would it be fair to say that really this is the strength of your sort of project management and change management piece coming into the fore, where you're looking at a process similar to Cotter, I suppose, or something like that, in terms of, all the things that, the HR professionals and so on and so forth that are on the call this morning would be familiar with in terms of doing any other project, but applying them into this area. And I think this is one of the reasons why, you and I kind of get to work together as organizations in relation to this, because it's so complementary. Our piece is doing the measurement and the recognition. Your piece is really here is how you manage the overall piece from a project management point of view and taking a very evidence-based approach to the change.
I think so, Jim. Yeah, and that's certainly how my mind works. And I imagine it's the same for quite a few others. I just need to see those steps called out. Okay, great. We need to do well-being, but how do I actually go about doing that? We need to do long-term. We need to be strategic. I hear that all the time, but I don't actually see or hear the steps being called out. Well, here they are. There are your steps, and it's not necessarily linear. Different organizations will be in different places, different stages at any one time. It's a bit like having 8 plates in the air as well. You're never really done with any of these plates. This is a constant iterative process that you're continuously working on. So I'd say that the final maybe enabler, if you like, would be passionate people. And you touched on that in your introduction, Jim. This isn't going to happen for you overnight. If you're looking for a quick fix, forget about it. This is not a quick fix. You need passionate people to deliver this, to believe in this, because they will get knocked back quite a few times, but you just need to kind of really believe it in and support it.
Okay, so let's move on to one of those passionate people and look at some case studies, right? So Aileen, I'd like to talk to you, if I could, on your experience with the IRFU. Aileen, you joined the IRFU and you used to work in the FAI, I believe, isn't that right?
Yeah, I did. I worked in the FAI up to 2012 for about 5.5 years. So I suppose 12 years of my career has been in sport at this stage. I've also worked in banking and comms, and a short while in airline as well.
And you became a director in 2018?
I did, yeah. October 2018, I became the director, yeah, of HR. So I would have started with the IRFU in September 2014. And I started in as HR manager. A year or so later, I became head of HR. So I'd look after the HR function then for the provinces and the IRFU. And then I was promoted to HR director in 2018.
Okay, and you've been recognised both as a great place to work and as a healthy place to work in that period of time.
We have indeed. We're part of the original pilot programme for Healthy Place to Work. So we have been accredited 3 times for Healthy Place to Work, which we're delighted to be able to say. and we're in our 3rd year now of our Great Place to Work journey, and we've achieved 2 years so far, so we'll see.
And could you talk us through that journey in terms of your strategic approach to health, and what kinds of things did you find and what surprised you?
Yeah, no problem. I suppose initially when I started out in 2014, I took on the HR manager role. The HR director that was leaving at the time had done a staff survey. The information that I got from that was really, really valuable, obviously, as somebody coming in brand new to the organisation. It was clear from that survey that well-being needed to be looked at. It was definitely in its infancy. So like what Brian said there, where we started, I suppose, in 2014, 2015 was those random acts of well-being. So it took us a year or so to kind of move down that funnel, as he describes it, and kind of bed it into the organisation. It just, I suppose, the ad hoc approach that we had, it just didn't work in terms of creating that sustainable well-being program for the IRFU. So we definitely moved to that more strategic approach quite quickly. We went about creating our vision, the steps we need to take to achieve that. We had to get buy-in, obviously, from the senior management team, and we were lucky in that the CEO and COO were really open to it from the beginning. We did have some resistance around the house, a few skeptical heads, but listen, it's worked out really well. I just think, patience and consistency are key with it, and just getting getting those well-being champions, those like-minded people basically together to drive it, and just not making it just a HR kind of focused initiative. I suppose one of the things that we did was we got our staff to kind of ran a little competition to name the program, just to try and get them to kind of feed into a little bit more. That's probably 3 or 4 years ago at this stage, and they came up with IRFU Fit for Life. So everything's branded under that logo. Any emails that go out, anything that's happening, it's kind of all under that program. So it's worked. It's worked out really well for us so far. But we're building. It's a journey, and we're in it for the long haul.
And tell me, Aileen, what difference has it made to the effectiveness of the IRFU?
I think now that we have kind of an established wellbeing program, staff are kind of definitely more engaged. They believe that it's now on the agenda, and it's just helped so much in kind of integrating the staff throughout the building as well. Just the morale in the office is so much better than it was probably in 2014. And it's just, for me, it's just that I know that the staff believe that it's on the agenda, and that the IRFU want to create that wellbeing program. We're very honest and open. We're on a journey. We try to get as much feedback as we can from them through, obviously, yourselves and Healthy Place to Work. And I suppose when you come with those reports and those stats to us, I nearly flick straight to what are the suggestions, what's the feedback from the staff, and how can we improve things? And we have a good solid crew in that employee forum that help and assist us drive it. So yeah.
So branding and kind of packaging it properly, getting the right guiding alliance behind it, and then acting on the results have been important.
Really, really important. I mean, I have to remember, I suppose, staff have put themselves out there maybe to complete a staff survey, come knocked on your office, sent you an email, whatever it is. So you don't sit in those things for too long, and you need to engage with them on it and put it into action, or let them know why it can't maybe happen this year, and it's something for the future. But I suppose you're trying to hang on to any kind of engagement you're getting from staff, and it's so important to communicate with them, for them to understand from the beginning, I suppose, the why are we doing this, what is the company going to look like in the future, and obviously catering for the 4 pillars. And luckily we've been involved with Healthy Place to Work and Great Place the last few years, and I suppose it's given that framework, it's given that structure, and people are asking, like, when is the the next survey, or where are we at now, and when do we hear if we achieved? And they're just proud that we have achieved it. They're proud to work for an organisation that has achieved. Obviously there's lots of success on the field, and that's what a lot of people would see. and people in the office want to be part of success too.
So that drive to be the best and the drive to be competitive is actually a useful thing for you to capture in terms of bringing forward a program like this within the IRFU. Was it tempting in the past year? Because for many clients and many businesses, this has been a really tough year, be that hospitality or whatever sector you're in. And indeed for yourselves, it's been a tough year. So was it tempting to say, let's take a break for a year or two?
No, I suppose you could have sat back, and I suppose, like, I am really enthusiastic about wellbeing. At the moment, I'm doing a corporate wellbeing coaching course with Kingstown College. It's just something that I'm really, really passionate about. So it was never going to go on the back burner for me. We just had to shift the way we were doing it, for sure, because everything's virtual. We've been home working, as you can see. I'm home here in my little sitting room since March 20, and a handful of staff are going in maybe one day a week, and that's it. So it was important to kind of keep going, and I just felt we'd come so far, and we didn't want to let it all fall apart. And the staff in the IRFU are fantastic, and they enjoy the wellbeing initiatives. And the last year has been tough. I mean, I don't know how many people kind of follow sport that's watching today, but sport has been hit hard, like lots of industries. It's been documented. We've had redundancies this year ourselves. It's been really difficult. There's been pay cuts and all that kind of thing. So it's been tough in work and then outside of work for people, just with COVID in general. So we've certainly kept things up, and we've moved to virtual kind of classes and engagements, created channels on our Teams. We use Microsoft Teams, created channels there. We've really leaned on the staff to kind of feed into that. We use a company called Umbrella Wellness, who set up a portal for ourselves and the provinces, and people can watch the classes live, or they can watch it at a later time. So they're always kind of changing it up, looking for our feedback on what can happen, or what I suppose the topics that are of interest to our staff. So we've tried to keep it as vibrant as we possibly can, but it definitely has been more difficult to see who's engaged, or how engaged people are in it, because people will maybe do it in the evenings rather than having this kind of live event. But yeah, people seem to be happy. But it is definitely more of an effort for HR to look after the well-being of staff this year anyway, because you're not seeing people, you're missing that drive-by, people popping in to the office and kind of getting a sense of where people are at. But it's, we all know, we don't have to say it, it's been a difficult year for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're first of all, I mean, congratulations in terms of your recognition and so on and so forth. Another photograph of you here for people to have a look at, and we'll get into questions and answers there in a few minutes. And thanks very much, Aileen. I'd like to move on to John now, if I could. And John, this is a photograph I think that was taken the night before last. I think apparently there's a website.
You're off the table for pulling that one out, Jim.
There's a website, John, which I Love Limerick, and I think you all got together. Like, this is the full cohort of people who love Limerick. They're here in this photograph.
Typical Cork man.
Could you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, I'm part of Show Comedy. We're Limerick's only improv comedy.
John, you've just gone on mute. I think that might be an improv thing. So you're taking this improv thing very seriously.
Yeah, no, I was trying to keep the laughter down. Did you pull that one? Yeah, I'm part of Show Comedy, an improv group. We've been going for 10 years in Limerick, so yeah, it helps get through the day job along with everything else,
Okay. It looks really interesting. So first of all, John, you started off with ESAT originally, and you've been in the whole sort of communications piece for quite some time. You were in sales at one point, and then supporting sales effectiveness after that, and now into the whole sort of communication and employee engagement, employee experience piece at BT. Could you tell us just a little bit about BT, because BT being a business-to-business brand, not necessarily everybody would know who, the scale of your operation, I suppose. And you have a very substantial operation in Ireland.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. Yes, I am a recovering salesperson. 10 years off the wagon now at this stage, so it's a struggle every day, though. But yeah, BT. Yeah, as you said, like BT Ireland, even though we're here for over 20 years, we're sometimes the best kept secret in the country. We provide telecoms and technology solutions to some of the leading multinationals that are based here in Ireland, some of the largest domestic businesses as well. And we also provide to wholesale telecom suppliers as well. So there's a really good chance that probably most people on this call have used our services in some shape or other, probably in the last week or so, but may not have even realized it. We also support the emergency call answering service. We've been doing that for 10 years. And I think everybody probably knows us better from the BT Young Scientist and Technology exhibition. So not only we sponsor that, but we also operate and deliver that. That's a 12-month operation, and at its height, we have 100 BT volunteers involved in rolling that out. So
and you're very heavily involved in that yourself, John. Not just
it's something that I'm really proud of. It's great to just engage with all these wonderful young people that are going to be the life force of the country going forward. But it's great for anybody in BT. We've over demand in terms of our volunteers, because you just get such a great buzz, particularly in the dark early weeks of January. To be involved in something like that is absolutely fantastic. And again, it actually plays into what we're talking about today, I think.
Okay. So why Healthy Place to Work, John?
So why Healthy Place to Work? Yeah, indeed. So as you said, we've a very diverse workforce, from those 999 operators in Donegal. We could have field engineers up a mast in West Cork, sales people out on the road or in the air before COVID, heading over to customers in America and around the world. So, but everybody has the same strategic priority, and that's, to deliver outstanding customer experience. If we do that, we deliver business performance, create value, and that sustains the business for the future. And you can only do that with a really healthy, engaged workforce. So we've been involved, as you know, Jim, with a Great Place to Work a number of years ago. And we've been considering doing that again. We have our own internal Your Say survey as well, which is run by BT Group. But Healthy Place to Work really appealed to us, given its focus, and particularly on health outcomes and how those helped in terms of the organizational outcomes as well. So yeah, I think it was something that myself and Shay, when we were originally approached, were saying, yeah, I think this actually ticks the boxes of what we want to do. So if you move on to the next slide, Jim.
And just for those who are not familiar with BT, Shay is your CEO, who you'd have a very strong relationship with and would work very closely with in terms of initiatives like this.
We just assume everybody knows Shay, which of course isn't the case. So yeah, I mean, the health and well-being has always been a part of our culture. Shay is very much leads by example in regards to that. We've been ahead of the game in terms of flexible working policies, progressive health policies, really good healthcare, etc. But we felt that being part of the Healthy Place to Work program would really kind of embed it in the organization more and make it more of a strategic priority for us. As you can see there, we're really, our purpose is to connect for good, and that's delivered by an inclusive, diverse, and highly engaged team. So we invest in our people to make sure that they really deliver for our customers, but they feel healthy, they feel that they're developed, that they're supported, and that we give back then to the wider community. We do a whole pile around volunteering, not only young scientists, but a whole pile of other stuff in terms of fundraising for a lot of organizations that need our help. And again, that's something that again connects everybody and feel connected to what we do as a company as well. So
your approach about bringing everything together then, John, and kind of branding accordingly and sort of pulling it in so that it's understandable
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that, that really aligned with Healthy Place to Work. So, and we just felt that, getting involved in the program would really give us an understanding of where people are at in terms of how their jobs align with the overall company objectives. Do they feel that they are in an environment that allows them to develop and grow, that they can come to work and be themselves, that they enjoy their work, and that they're supported by their colleagues and also by their managers and by the business as well. So that's really kind of where we started with. And similar to Aileen, it was really important that we got our managers on board, senior manager on board, and that they saw the value, getting those people on the bus, as Brian mentioned as well, which was key. So we started our journey. I think we're actually on an extra slide there. I think.
Oh, sorry.
You've given away the best bit now, Jim.
Okay, so there we go. Our journey. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Chad. My improv, I like to work on it.
So we started our journey with the survey in 2018 as part of that pilot study, and we had 70% of the people complete the survey. But it was a real educational process for us, because even putting together the submission that goes with the survey, we kind of realized all that we have to offer in the business. We just sometimes don't realize that. And it's a busy, very competitive market that we work in. So you're so busy delivering for customers and doing things, you actually forget really kind of things that you have done. So it was a great process from that. And again, I think it was further educational then from a leadership point of view and our people in terms of, well, what does constitute a healthy place to work? Because we probably had, starting off, maybe a narrow view of it. And again, back to what Brian said in terms of, the ad hoc stuff, like, is it having fruit baskets at the end of the desks every day? Is it having Pilates classes, all that sort of stuff, where, we gradually recognize it, obviously far more pervasive than that. So it was great. And what was great then as well, we went into the program with low expectations, let's say, but we were delighted with our first year's results. The fact that we did get our certification. I do remember the presentation with the ILT in our boardroom in GCP, and then being quite shocked that we'd gotten our certification from the off. But that was great, a great start. But immediately we looked at the results and the feedback that we got, and we actually started deep diving into those results along with our team. So Jim, yourself, Fania, and the team helped us out in terms of doing sessions with our teams to really just really understand where they were coming from, and of course help that education process along as well. So and I think, and again, it's something both Brian and Aileen have alluded to, this is not something that you're going to do on a quick fix. It's very much, it's organic growth, and it takes time to embed the brand, embed what it represents in an organization. So you do that slowly. Of course, we did, started, introducing initiatives like, we went back to our healthcare partner, Leah, and said, listen, what else can we do? So they've been absolutely fantastic. We've introduced things like our wellbeing portal. We've done temperature check-ins with our teams, and then teams themselves come up with what works for them. So it's not a one size fits all either. So we've got teams that are doing peer-to-peer learning sessions every week. We've got another teams that are doing lunch and walk sessions back when we were all together in offices and stuff. So all of that stuff has helped. And then you'll see as we've gone on from the next year, again, our results improved, and we've stayed ahead in terms of the averages against the other groups that have been certified. And then, this year, it's been a challenge with COVID, but I think, our Healthy Place to Work credentials really came to the fore. Again, you've seen that with another set of absolutely brilliant results. And the feedback that we got from our staff in terms of the flexibility, our quickness to react, the support that we've given them in those initial days of the lockdown, but also all the way through since, has been absolutely vital, that we've stayed connected even though we've been far apart. And we've introduced other initiatives like wellbeing pledge. We've had a number of wellbeing afternoons, but we've also tried to keep things the show on the road as we normally would in terms of our customer engagements, but also in terms of some of the stuff that we know our people really value. So again, if you go back to the fundraising stuff, we still did our Shop for Change campaign in aid of the Irish Cancer Society and raised 67,000 for that, even though we had to deliver that completely differently than what we would have done. And we also delivered Young Scientists completely virtually, which people thought, I couldn't really do that, could you? We did, and it was very successful. We 60,000 visitors from 77 countries for that this year. So, it's, and I think part of our embedding the healthy place to work in our language and our strategy has really come to the fore for us over the last year or so. And I think then if you go back to the strategic drivers, Jim, and you can do the big reveal now on that, I think these are
interrupt you for 1 second and just mention, right, for yourself and Aileen, like you are both as practitioners, and Brian and myself here as advisors, but as practitioners, you're both very much understated in terms of your own sort of personal impact, in terms of how well you're communicating this, how well you think it through. And I'd have to say, in terms of BT is a very results focused organization. And your ability to communicate and to capture that return on investment, has been exceptionally good. And I would certainly encourage anybody to, if you're willing to spare a couple of minutes of your time, you've got a lot of expertise. You've both got an awful lot of expertise to add to anybody on the call here today. So it's important that people who are on the call understand that, the full, I suppose, expertise that you're bringing to it. It's very impressive to see.
Thanks, Jim. And as we said at the start, our aim is to deliver outstanding customer experience, and the three big numbers there that you'll see are a result of our customer experience survey, which we run with a company called Deep Insight every January. And these scores are world-class scores, and particularly in the telecoms market, they're absolutely outstanding. Trend over the last 4 to 5 years, and I know for sure our colleagues in the UK would absolutely kill for these for results. And when we ask our customers, why do they rate the customer experience from BT so highly, you'll see there, the great strengths we call out are our people, are the expertise of our people, the focus that they give to them and their needs, and the relationships that we build. And again, that goes back to a healthy, engaged workforce who are passionate about what they do and what they bring to work and support and deliver for our customers. And not only do our customers say it, but actually our people say it as well. So from our USA survey, which I mentioned earlier, 93% of BT Ireland staff are proud of the services that we deliver for our customers. It hasn't always been that way, that is for sure. So that's been huge. And, that has delivered the value. We talked about creating value to creating sustainable business performance. And, all these things, it's a virtuous rather than a virtual circle. A virtual circle is completely different, but it's a virtuous circle because, we have delivered business performance in BT Ireland. We're one of the best performing teams in BT. We've delivered profitable growth over the last 5 years, and we're set up to do the same over the next 5 years. So, it all plays a part in that.
I mean, I had the privilege of being at that presentation with Deep Insight, and one of the things that was very clear is that your employee experience and customer experience over the years moved in lockstep, right? So there is that really synergistic piece where better experience for the employees in turn fed into better experience for the customer. And again, you see that circle completed here in terms of your 93% of people are proud of the service it gives to the customers. So that whole piece moving together and really underscores the whole sort of strategic idea that you've put into action.
Absolutely, and Aileen alluded to her own maybe some of the cynics.
Sorry, could you
Yep.
move a little closer to your mic there?
Sorry, yeah.
Super, thanks, Midden. Sorry, you were about to say.
Just Aileen alluded to having some cynics hurlers on the ditch as well, and I think we've convinced them in terms of the value of the Healthy Place to Work program, and it is more pervasive now in terms of the language, and it is part and parcel of what we do in terms of communicating our strategy, that this is this is really, really, really important, and we've got KPIs embedded in our performance indicators against this, so that's really, really important.
Okay, so again, congratulations on being recognised as a healthy place to work, and for all your work. If it's okay now, I'm going to move on to some questions in terms of the panelists and so on, and a couple of questions have sort of come in there that I see. So here's a question: where do you see is the sweet spot between focusing on well-being and focusing on performance?
I'll jump in there, Jim, if that's okay.
I'm sorry, Brian.
Yeah, I'll jump in there.
Sure.
So business, I saw Carl's questions there. So business performance and well-being, where's the sweet spot, or how do you align the two is what I would look at. And so what I try and do with our students that come through my programs, with the leadership teams, or with the well-being champions, is almost the very first thing we look at is what's your well-being vision? Can you derive a well-being vision from your organization's vision? So in other words, can we align what we're doing from a well-being perspective to what the organization's objectives and goals are? So in other words, we're trying to bring our leadership team with us and our colleagues with us. So if we are delivering on our well-being vision, then we will also be delivering on the organization's vision. And there's some really brilliant examples out there that I've come across. Sarah from GameStop, who are in the news for maybe different reasons recently, but they have an excellent just in the early stages of a well-being program, but they're really going about it the right way about how they're crafting it. They've looked at the organization's vision, and it's all about kind of gaming, and Star Wars is a big deal there as well. And they've kind of done something similar to what Aileen has done. They've named the baby, they've named their program, and they've derived a well-being vision statement that aligns with the organization's vision. So they have the Force Within wellness program is designed to make their taking advice from the. What's that? Sorry, Jim.
Having a high level outcome is really important in seeing that alignment, Brian.
Exactly. Aligning your organization's vision and values with what you're doing from a well-being perspective.
And then Aileen, in practice, when you have that alignment, what does that mean on the ground from your point of view?
Yeah, I suppose from my perspective, once you have the well-being program there, and it's established, staff are feeling I suppose cared for, they feel like the company values them, etc. They're going to perform to their best. They're going to want to come to work. They're going to want to do the best by their team and their managers. So I feel like you definitely do get more out of your staff if you look after them and have that strong well-being program in place for your staff, for sure.
So John, you mentioned, and I think both mentioned in terms of the skeptics here. What would you say to a skeptical manager in terms of that? Is there a sweet spot there? Are they in contradiction? Does not getting emails after 5 o'clock means we're all getting soft in BT?
No, I think I think what we did was we had enough people that got it from day one. So we said, right, we can either pay too much attention to the skeptics and not do this, or it starts, questioning ourselves about it was
in there, John. Your audio is just it's just hard to hear you.
All right.
Oh, much better.
Okay. We largely ignored skeptics from start to finish because we felt passionate about it. I think this will only work if your senior leaders are really passionate about this, and take a driving role in this, and that's what we did. From am I still not being heard now?
I'm sorry, John. We're losing you there a little bit. So the audio. I don't know if anybody else is having that particular problem. Maybe it's just at my end. I don't know. You see it there, Brian, or?
Unfortunately, can't hear John that well. No.
Yeah,
Okay,
me either.
So I'm not sure what that is, John. We were going very well there earlier. Okay, so I'm just going to move on to some of the other questions there, if I could. So in terms of long-term sustainability as opposed to the random act of kindness, is there anything sort of critical that you'd say there that you might pay attention to? Aileen?
Yeah, the random act of kindness I was saying earlier, that's kind of how we started off, dipping our toe in the water. But in terms of sustainability, it just doesn't work because nobody kind of understands what you're trying to do. You don't have that clear vision in place. You're not bringing people on a proper journey. It feels like you're just going, oh, today we'll do. And it is, as you said, just random. So you need to have that clear vision, get those wellbeing champions or whatever you call them in your business together and drive it. Poster up your canteens and whatever it is, bring awareness to the wellbeing program and just move completely away from the random. You're not going to get the same return when you do random acts. You just aren't. When you have that program, you want to leave something there. Eventually when you maybe move on to another company, you want to leave a good program there. If you're going to continue with the random, that's all it's going to be.
Using an evidence-based approach, good measurement and so on and so forth is going to be really important in terms of making sure, and then going back to what Brian was saying, aligning it to the overall outcome. Brian, I've a question for you, if I could, which is a slightly tricky question. A toxic individual can have a big impact on a number of people and a big impact on their health and well-being. What would be your thoughts around somebody who is seen as toxic, but not necessarily easy to deal with through the normal channels?
Well, if I can just briefly touch on the previous point, I'm all for random acts of kindness, 100%. It's those random acts of wellness you want to just maybe not get into an endless cycle of them, but random acts of kindness are 100% go with it. I saw that question come in regarding the toxic individual. I guess it sounds like it's potentially more of a HR question. My immediate thought was, how do you handle that? I mean, I don't know. From my point of view, I'd be handing out copies of Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning book to every employee, for starters. You can't control other people, but you can control your reaction to other people. That was just my immediate thought. I don't know how that would go down, but it's that type of approach. It's you cannot control other people, but you can control your own reactions to other people if they're not breaching HR policies.
And John, you might be back to us there, are you? We just test your audio.
I don't know. We'll give it a go anyway.
Oh, that sounds great, because I have the perfect question for you. So,
oh Lord, I should have stayed mute.
You were in sales, right? And you're a whole expert in terms of that and sales performance. And we have come across from time to time, let's say, salespeople who are able to deliver great results but have a poor impact. Good sales results, I should say, but have a poor impact on the overall culture. What would you do about that?
Yeah, it's a good point, and we definitely would have had those individuals in our organizations in the past. It's not acceptable. I mean, Shay RMD has been in charge of sales organizations, and he's been around the organization for a long time. Landing a big sale and then throwing everybody else under the bus is not good for our organization at all, because it creates too much stress, and at the end it actually doesn't deliver what we want to deliver. So that's not acceptable. And those people don't have a long journey with BT Ireland, to be quite honest. We work together, we support together, and you see from the customer experience results, that involves a big team. And it's not just one individual, who has a detrimental effect on the overall organisation. Just can't be tolerated.
Kind of give them a chance to change and give them the support to change, but
absolutely, it's raising the awareness of the impact that they've had, not on the wider teams. And we've had. We've probably gone from an organization that did that tolerated a lot of people like that, back in our youthful ESAT days, let's say. But as we've evolved, and particularly with the healthy place to work focus, it's the environment and the community is key to how we deliver and support each other.
I have a question here for you. How do you, is this not a lot of work for line managers? How do you get line managers on board here, Aileen?
Sorry, Mr. How do you get line managers on board?
How do you get line managers? Because that's an important part of any sort of cultural change or wellness program. They have a big impact in terms of people's workplace experience. How do you get them on board for something like this?
Well, we engage with the people management group just to kind of let them know what we were doing. Get their thoughts on it. I suppose initially when we started kind of on our journey, we brought in a company called Squarebox, and they did a lot of work with our management group, our people managers, and some of the focus was around kind of well-being and the benefits of it, managing staff, etc. So we did a good bit of work with our people managers and getting on board. I'm sure there were one or two that weren't initially when we started off, but I think it's just trying to get those quick wins, seeing what they feel would work, maybe just spending a little bit more time with them and chatting about what we were doing or where we were in the plan, and to just kind of bring them into the fold a little bit, and just try tip at it that way, I think.
Okay, and a final question for each of the panel. How do you make the business case to senior leadership?
You could take that's step one in the framework, the committed leadership framework, if you like. You could approach it from the World Health Organization angle, how they look at what is a healthy workplace. You can look at it. It's the legal thing to do. So there are legal requirements, and there are more coming as well. ISO 45003 is on the way. That's an international standard on psychologically safe workplaces. You can make the ethical case. It's the ethical thing to do, and then finally, it's the smart thing to do. So that's your business case essentially. That's where you go out, look at the evidence. Healthy Ireland have some excellent research from late 2018, which I'm happy to share with everybody afterwards. There's your evidence for starters. Then gather your internal measurements as well. Something like a healthy place to work survey. What are the statistics saying? Where are the needs and wants? What are our people looking for? And get those statistics in front of your leadership team and ask them, what are they looking for? A really good way to measure, to set expectation is, think 1 year in the future. What is the leadership team looking to see from a wellbeing program? Is it return on investment? Is it statistics around talent attraction and retention? Or is maybe it's health behaviours, health outcomes of our colleagues, and then work backwards and put your measurements in place around those.
So play to the needs of the business and needs of the organization and needs of leadership.
Exactly.
Aileen?
Yeah, I think Brian's covered off everything there really, really clearly. I suppose with us, we didn't kind of go with an ask. We went with a presentation to the leadership group to show them kind of what we wanted to do, what our plan was, and just asked that they trust us to do it. I would have spoken to the CEO and COO individually in advance, just to kind of get their understanding and buy-in. I was lucky in the IRFU, they were bought in, they understood from the beginning that this was important and that it needed to happen. And that's how we approached it. So there were some, stats and research discussed as well, just to show, different articles, journal articles, that type of thing that we would have spoken to the senior management team about, just to give kind of evidence-based. But to be honest, at the start, we didn't get too much resistance. As I said, there were a couple of skeptical people, but we didn't get too much resistance. But I think that presentation and just kind of starting as you mean to go on, this is what we're doing, this is what we believe in, let's look at it again together in 6 months, 12 months, and kind of bring them again in and get them involved.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank the whole panel for joining us. Thanks very much, Brian, from Workplace Wellbeing Ireland. A link here which we'll share with you in terms of some work we've done before with Brian, and great to see all that. Thank you so much to two organisations who were pilot programs in terms of the Healthy Place to Work approach for a number of years, who were experts in terms of their execution and their practice, and congratulate them both on continuing to be a healthy place to work, and the great insight and the impact that they're having on people's lives. I really appreciate you joining us. And thanks to all the participants for joining us this morning. And of course, Marina and Cathal there for supporting us back at house. So really appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you. Please come forward with any questions that as you see fit afterwards, and we'll be sharing the slides and the recording after the thing. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Look after yourselves.